healthier. I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight, a little bit overweight, and
Sure.
trying to thin up for the wedding, Honestly, just thin up in general, But
that's a good thing to do, man. Salads are good for that too, for sure.
Yeah, man. I got cherry tomatoes, cucumbers, onions, olives, black olives, Kalamata olives, a little feta cheese, some garbanzo beans, and red beans.
That's very close to what I had for lunch, actually, dude. I had a cucumber salad, I had corn chutney, and then it had garbanzo beans, and it had some sort of cherry tomatoes and red peppers and a couple other things and feta cheese. So yeah, we're kind of on the same stomach wavelength right now, bro.
Hell yeah.
That's a pretty good sign. We're gonna be tapped in.
Dude, fucking great minds think alike,
Great guts process alike too, dude. Apparently.
I got great guts.
They say the gut is the key to the heart and the key to the mind and pretty much everything, so.
Well, we got mind and heart here.
Oh yeah. Dude, I think I had some artichoke hearts in my salad too, speaking of heart.
I love artichoke heart, man. It's funny, my oh shit, remind me, I need to get my water bottle before. Oh, we already did start.
All right, we can cut it. It's
no, you're fine. Just start talking to yourself. I'm gonna go get my water real fast.
I guess I could talk a little bit about the complexities of various tomatoes. Of course, you've got your Roma tomato. You've got your larger varieties of heirloom type tomatoes, as well as the cherry tomato. The cherry tomato, I like the texture of the cherry tomato because you can bite into it and it has a nice kind of pop to it, almost like a membrane, kind of like a grape. But I don't really like how difficult they are to get onto the fork.
Come here.
And so I prefer maybe to chop up a larger tomato, maybe a Roma tomato, something like that you would use for sauce. Chop that up, put that into the salad. I find that's a little bit better usually. But every man does a salad differently, so who knows?
You talking about salads?
Yeah, I was just talking about the difference in tomatoes and what kind of tomato do you want on your salad typically, their properties.
Typically I don't want any kind of tomato, but I'm trying to condition myself. I kind of believe you can condition yourself into liking a food.
Oh, 100%. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and I'm going cherry tomato. It's American tomatoes, so it's not particularly good, but it is what it is.
Are you one of those picky eaters? Like you don't like veggies and stuff like that, or is it just particularly tomatoes you don't like?
Well, as a kid, I was a picky eater. But as an adult, I don't really think so. I do have to say, though, there's a couple things that I'm still picky about. And that's got to be tomatoes. I just don't like tomatoes. The other day, my fiance made... little son of a bitch. My dog's just fucking creeping on me. She made tuna salad, for sandwiches. I just can't abide this shit.
You don't like tuna salad?
No.
Yeah, neither do I.
I don't understand. Yeah, just like canned fish mixed with mayonnaise. It seems like a bit that people are doing.
It's crazy, dude. Yeah, that's nuts.
Crazy. You can't just say that that's like a dish.
Yeah, you're like tuna salad, dude. Mayonnaise plus canned fish, and you're like, no, that's not salad.
I'm not just gonna take ground beef and mix it with ketchup and put it on a fucking sandwich. And also, I understand that maybe is kind of a perverse reading of what a meatloaf salad is.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, I guess a sloppy Joe. But you get what I'm saying, man. It's fucking gross, dude. Fuck off with that shit.
Yeah, I would probably call that a beef salad.
Beef
ketchup
salad.
And ground beef.
Beef salad.
That's some shit, if you're on a carnivore diet, that's what you do for your side. You're like, I'm having some beef salad.
My buddy who's been doing carnivore for a while just literally eats beef patties for lunch and dinner. It's kind of funny.
Just straight beef patties. Does he use sauce? Is that allowed in the carnivore diet?
I don't know. I think that... excuse me. I think at this point, he's kind of diluted it a little.
You kind of have to a certain extent.
Well, I guess there's tiers.
Yeah.
And so Sorry, I'm just gonna be eating this whole fucking time.
Oh, you're fine, man. I got a bag of chips on my iron over here that I brought home from lunch.
What kind of chips you sitting on?
Like a house-made barbecue chip. It's pretty good. It's like a kettle cooked.
A tater?
Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, honestly, man, like I was saying about getting into a little bit of better health. The biggest thing for me was cutting chips. That's like my big vice is potato chips.
But, I get that. Once you pop, you don't stop, dude.
Absolutely. Well, and honestly, the big thing for me, it's all about behavioral stuff for me, right? So like whatever is easiest in my house is just what I'm gonna go for, right?
Yeah, man.
So like this salad I'm eating right now, I've been rocking these for a while now, like a month or so now, and like this is very far from what I would normally eat generally. But I've just prepped a bunch of it, and there's just nothing else in my house that is nearly as easy to get going than this. What the fuck are you doing, man? Hey, go lay down. Go lay down. This is already an amazing start to this week.
Oh yeah, I think it's gonna be a good episode, bro. I'm enjoying the food talk. Yeah,
well, I think like this is great thematically too, because I gotta say, man, like. I listened to that RFK interview, which, to be honest, I think basically anybody listening to this probably already has.
I imagine so. Unless you're like, I hate Joe Rogan, he's like lid-pilled or something, then maybe. But you probably aren't listening to us if you're that person. Maybe you are. To be
honest, I Rogan does kind of annoy me for
I mean,
the liberal he is. But,
he's a retard, but like he gives a good platform. He actually asks questions well. He interviews pretty well. He gives space.
And he's based on certain particular things where it
right.
Matters. But I listened to that, and then I don't know if you checked it out yet.
Dude,
but,
Jeff, cut it out. Sorry, that's my cat.
Jeff and Wallace are just both on one today.
Dude, they're going nuts. All right, sorry.
No, it's all good. Steve Kirsch was on.
Oh, dude, I saw that on Rare Candy.
On Rare Candy,
Fuck,
and that shit was a banger, dude.
Yes, it was, dude. Big ups to the boys.
Yeah, big ups for real. If any of you guys haven't listened to it yet, 100% check it out. I'm like, I mean, I'm thinking about, I'm planning, getting a family going and everything, and just like hearing all of this stuff lately is just. I'm mulling things over big time, and so starting this week off with a nice, salad talk.
Oh,
it's good. It's good, man.
When you say you're mulling things over, you're talking about vaccine related, like for children vaccinations.
Oh yeah, man, and just in general, like just endocrine disruptors and just all the health stuff in general. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, it's important to be on top of that just for your own individual sake. But if you're going to have a family, I think I'm not going to have like an anti-natalist position where I'm like, you shouldn't have kids unless you're like set up perfectly, because no one's ever really set up perfectly. But like, if you're going to plan to have children and it's something that you're putting intention into, you should try to get yourself healthy, get your house in order. As a part of that preparation. And so I think that trying to eat healthier, trying to lose a little weight, establish good healthy habits that you can then show to your kids, I think that's pretty major.
Oh, you bet, man. You bet. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm gonna be quitting smoking weed at the end of this month, and that's gonna be a big thing for me.
You doing that for good, or if you're doing that for like until a family comes, or are you doing that like just for a while as a tolerance break? Or
I'm doing it for the family thing. I love fucking smoking weed so much, so it's definitely not going to be like a permanent thing. I just wouldn't want to do that, dude. And honestly, also, like, I don't know if I've talked about this on the show, but there's like an unfairness to just like, all right, well, I can't fucking drink, and so then you're going to tell me I can't smoke weed also. And look, I get it. Like, it's not. I shouldn't have to use anything, right?
Right.
But like, I like getting fucked up. And I don't know, man. I'm just not quite ready to cut everything out. I'm just not quite ready to do that. I don't know if I ever will be, to be totally honest. But you know, a spermic cycle is 3 months.
Oh yeah, that's what you were talking about last. Okay, yeah, that's what it was for.
Yeah, and so did I talk about this on the show already?
No, I think you just brought up you're trying to have your swimmers in good shape.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, I mean, I'm still gonna smoke like at the wedding, you know, and I'm still gonna smoke like at the bachelor party. But like the way I figure is just like you get 3 months of like basically not smoking at all. I don't think like getting 3 months since your last single use is really that important. But yeah, just cutting that out, and then dude, the second we're good, fucking. but honestly, dude, I've known a couple of people who quit for like a limited amount of time and then went back, and we're just like, yeah, no, it's just not for me anymore.
Yeah,
and I'll be honest, like I love smoking weed, but like if that happened to me, that would be a great thing. So we'll see how it goes, you know.
Yeah, I think that I like smoking weed, but I've had times where I stopped smoking weed for a couple months or whatever. And then coming back to it, you just have a little bit more healthy relationship with it because you just have more of a distance from the habit. And I think it's really good to not ever be tied into any kind of like habitual use of anything, like be it medication or whatever. I mean, obviously, if you need a medication for health reasons and you have to take it habitually, then do that. But like, I think,
dude, I don't even like giving that qualifier anymore, because I just feel like half the time the medical industry convinces, like the concept of needing it is also kind of bullshit.
Oh, dude, for like 99.9% of things that people are on medication for, 100%. Like, and they tell you that it's like, and people have that mindset. They'll be like, well, this is medication I'm gonna have to be on for the rest of my life. That's nuts, dude. Like, that's not medication. That's like a supplement at that point, because medication should be medicating something and getting you to a baseline health. And if you're having to take something the rest of your life, that's not, to me, that's not medicating. That's not actually like fixing it. But I mean, if you have like, I don't know, fucking muscular dystrophy or some sort of thing that I don't know about that you need to take a, medication for, maybe that's a thing. But like, if it's mental illnesses, or if it's like a lot of autoimmune stuff, a whole bunch of stuff, there's better ways to actually get a good baseline health set to where you don't have to be on a medication. And most of the time, those don't involve going to a Western doctor and getting some sort of allopathic treatment plan. It would involve looking at what you're eating, what your lifestyle is, what are all the factors that are coming into your body and your environment, and then like figuring out some sort of plan to change that, rather than just like, okay, I'm going to keep everything I'm doing the exact same, but I'm going to take this little pill and that's just going to change everything for me. That's just such a weird mindset to be in. Obviously, it's profitable for the medical industries, and obviously that's like probably why it's become the main understanding of health in America. But it's just so removed from an actual good understanding of like what being a fully healthy human being is.
100%. I don't know. We know somebody who currently is like battling cancer, I think, as you might know already, and just like, I don't know, man. There's a couple things I hear here and there of like, oh yeah, this person's gonna need to take this medication for the rest of their life, and I certainly am not confident enough to give anybody any recommendations, and but my baseline assumption, and I think that this is a good baseline assumption, is to be very skeptical of that on its face.
Always, yeah. If anyone's trying to sell you a product that they stand to profit from, and they're trying to tell you that you're going to need it for the rest of your life, you should start that from a place of skepticism and then work towards acceptance rather than the other way around. And I feel like we have the opposite kind of thing going towards the medical industry right now.
100%.
Dude, if I got cancer, man, I don't know what I would do. I don't think I would do any type of chemo or anything. That shit is just crazy. But I mean, then again, I don't know, man. I mean, maybe if I had a family and stuff, I'd be looking at it different, But I think if I got it now and I didn't have a family, or anything. I mean, other than my parents and such, I think I would probably just not do chemo and look for alternative treatment paths, because chemo is like, it's just putting radiation in your body that's killing human cells. It's like what it's designed for. So
Yeah, that's
if they're
literally what
just
it is.
hoping that they kill enough of the cancer cells before they kill the other parts. So that's just like, I don't know. It just is scary to me, and it
It's
seems
fucked up,
crazy.
dude. It's
I
fucked up. It's one of those things where we're going to be like, hopefully, decades from now, hopefully, sooner than that, people will just be like amazed that we ever even did this.
Oh man, dude. Hopefully, with so much of this stuff, man. Hopefully, we get like, I don't know, decades down the line, maybe a century or two down the line, and it's like, man, we took a weird turn back there, right? Like this whole just like fixation on mechanical materialism as a solution for healing the body, for understanding the planet, for understanding human relations, etc. It's just kind of like a strange way to really embrace the world, and also definitely not a good way to look at health. Like viewing the body as like just a straight up a mechanism, and you're like, oh well, if you just kind of tweak this here, then that's going to fix everything. Or if you
It's not a
grease
good way
up
of
this
looking at much
nut,
of anything, to be honest.
right? So hopefully down the line we do look back and we're like, yeah, man, using chemo to try to kill off cancer cells, casting that wide of a net, that just seems crazy. Why did we ever think that? I think there are definitely some viable treatment options outside of chemo. And I actually knew a lady in Colorado who was diagnosed with, I don't know, some kind of cancer. And she was given that she had only 6 months left to live. I don't know if it was exactly 6 months, but it was a matter of months. And they wanted her to do chemo treatments during that time, even though it's that short of a time. And they're telling her basically, you're going to die. So she was like, I'm not going to do fucking chemo treatments. And this lady had money. So she moved to Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
And in Costa Rica, she just lived like out in like a pretty natural area, got access to the sea every single day, and access to like unpolluted just air and everything. And then she was also taking like 1,000 times the recommended dose of CBD every
Mm-hmm.
single day in the form of distillate. And the cancer, the tumor, went completely away after, I think, 6 months. Again, some span of time that was within the window. And now she's just fine. So yeah, I think there's ways to go about that. I don't know that that's the solution for everyone, obviously, but I think that there are outside the box solutions for cancer treatment and treatment of major medical things that we just don't explore because of the financial incentive not to do so.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's I don't even really want to comment on it too much, but
Right, right.
it's a fucking
It's scary too, man. Like you get into something like that and it's like you have this terrible illness. You're like, why is my body fighting against me? You know,
right.
it's a terrible thing to be in. Like I had to go to the hospital when I was younger because my appendix ruptured. I had appendicitis, and then the doctors didn't catch it, and I went to the ER twice, and they were like, "Oh, it's a stomach bug," and I was like, "No, it's not." And they were like, "Yeah." And then after 2 weeks of that happening, I was like very, very ill, high fever. So I went to my pediatrician, and he was like, "Yeah, your appendix ruptured, and you've got to go to the hospital right now." So I was in the hospital for like a month and a half, and had to have like all this infections pumped out, all this crazy stuff, and was like fighting for life. And it's like that moment's very scary. And I was a teenager then too, so I'm like, just do whatever, you know what I mean? Use whatever medication you need to do whatever you need to do to like make this right. And so it's easy to just kind of you don't know anything as a patient, really. You don't know the real mechanics of what's going on. And so it's hard to feel like you can make an educated decision on what the medications are they're recommending, anything like that. So yeah, it's a very hard place to be in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's oh man, a lot of experience just in this last year alone with people very close to me being fucked over by doctors just missing things.
Yeah, man.
Really bad shit. Person very close to me catching COVID and actually ending up in the ER pretty serious just because their diabetes was basically going completely unchecked.
Oh wow, they didn't know they had diabetes.
No, that's like one of the worst parts is that they did.
Oh wow,
I mean, it was just like it just like was not being managed well. Like
yeah.
their doctor was just asleep at the fucking wheel. And one of the biggest things in my mind, and I don't know, I almost kind of want to pivot away just because this is almost like too fresh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't have to get on it too much. It's just health related, so I think it's kind of
it's all
a
related,
soft
right?
intro into this discussion on RFK.
Totally. The thing that really gets me is that like the days of like a family practitioner are gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what you have is like 30 doctors for each fucking individual.
Yeah, man. Doc in a box type shit.
Yeah, and so it's just like, I want to have my kitchen remodeled. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hire 25 different subcontractors to do the job. What could possibly go wrong with that? It's a fucking joke, dude. It's a horrible fucking structure. And
especially when it goes with the medical system, there's so much note taking and stuff that needs to be done. And if it's not thorough enough, then the amount of information being passed from one doctor to the other is going to leave, like, it's going to be a telephone game a little bit. When you're in middle school and you're like, start a phrase and you're like, yeah, Stacy has curly hair. And by the end of it, it goes through 20 people. And then it's like, yeah, Stacy's got fucking straight black hair. And you're like, what are we talking about? I feel like that happens probably if you have that many doctors working on one thing. But yeah, the medical industry is a nightmare, man. It's terrible that we're wrapped up in it. It's terrible that they make so much money off of it. And like you're saying, it's going the way of like all the other things in our economy, all the other industries in America, where it's like you're getting like fractured down and split. It's almost like gig economy again for fucking doctors or something, where you're like, just gotta go and like this one doctor at the fucking pop-up clinic over here or whatever is going to pick up your patient for the day. And then they're going to pass you off and someone else will check their app and pick you up too. I mean, it's not that explicit, but still, it's not great. That's what I was saying with my situation. There were doctors I went to, the urgent care, and then the ER I went to, none of them caught it. And then I went to my family practitioner, who was like my pediatrician my whole life, and then like my brothers and everything. He knew right away without even taking any tests. He was like, you're fucked. You need to get to the hospital badly. But like these other people just didn't catch it because I don't know, they have blinders on. They get tunnel vision into a certain hypothesis or whatever. We need more motherfuckers like House out here, dude. We need more doctors on crippled with opiate addiction, just trying to figure it out with a whiteboard.
Yeah, that's I go into the hospital when we're visiting the other day, and I'm just like, hey, do you have any like junkie doctors that are like kind of socially eccentric?
Yeah. You got any doctors with a limp?
Yeah, any doctors with a limp played by British comedians?
So I guess we've been talking about health for a while. So I guess we could kind of transition more so talking into like RFK specifically.
Yeah, dude.
So he was on Rogan. Obviously, we brought that up a few minutes ago, and most people probably know that already. But he was on Rogan. It's on Spotify. He's got the exclusive deal with them, which is nice because it means it won't get taken down. Which a lot of his other stuff that RFK's been on has been taken down on YouTube or on social media, whatever, because of the flagging and the censorship, etc. So it's nice that he went on Rogan because he gave him the space to actually express himself, and it's not going to get taken down. But yeah, it was nice, man. Actually hearing him for a while. I mean, I listened to him on RFK on Theo Vaughn's podcast before, which actually now got taken down off YouTube as well.
Dude, all of his shit's getting taken down. It's right. I mean, it's fucked up, but also like, I mean, we've been doing this long enough to where like I'm not.
Oh, it's like, of course.
Yeah, like I'm not even. I'm not gonna even like act like I have some kind of like shock or anything. It's just
shock.
Like yeah, exactly. Like what? I'm not gonna pearl clutch. Like literally, of course that happened. But yeah, kind of funny to me.
It's sad though. Like that they're doing.
It is sad. I don't want to be too nihilistic.
They're doing it to like fucking presidential candidates. I mean, obviously they did it with Trump all the time, and like with Trump, they were able to kind of have public opinion on their side more because you're looking at Trump, you're like, yeah, dude, he's a fucking buffoon. I mean, I like the guy. I think he's funny. I of course don't think he should be censored, but like when you're hearing the kind of shit he's saying, you're like, I mean,
he's profane.
Yeah, it's profane. Right. So you're like that.
He's very obviously like
he's a candidate for censorship.
he's an inappropriate figure in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Whereas RFK is just kind of a guy.
Yeah. He's a Kennedy too.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the interesting things, I guess, is that it's like there's not really an argument for just like censoring on behalf of like decorum. It's just the content, which is wild, which is pretty wild.
And the content is pretty much like categorically correct. Like it's just not, it's not misinformation. I mean, I don't know, whatever. I don't have all the studies. I haven't poured through them myself. So whatever, but just censoring him seems crazy. And the fact that they're just at a level now where we're like, yeah, we're going to accept presidential candidates being censored is nuts. I mean,
it's funny because I thought that presidential candidates literally could not be censored.
Right, like
that was the thing.
You're kind of free from it, given the fact that you're going to be like running for a fucking public office. People need to hear what you're saying, dude. What the fuck?
Exactly.
Dude, and you saw that Biden. I mean, I think he announced this a long time ago, but I didn't even know about it. I assumed it would happen, but he's just not going to do any debates for this election. That's just so nuts, man. Like
it's interesting.
They're just going to push this dude in. They're going to censor candidates. They're not going to have their main candidate no one even likes that can barely form a sentence. They're not going to have him do debates, and they're going to censor opposition. It's so nuts that like we're just, and people kind of just think that it's pretty normal now that it's been somewhat normalized by the Trump thing.
I'm gonna have a little bit of a hot take on this, and this was kind of a point brought up by like fucking NPR libs, but there's some truth to it, which is, to be fair, there is a decent amount of precedent for like for a sitting president running for re-election to just not really like debate opponents.
He's like the incumbent bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Incumbents, there's much less of a precedent, or there's much more of a precedent for that. So I don't want to act, and I guess part of why it's easier for me to make a devil's advocate argument like this is just because like I don't. It's already like I'm just like, well, whatever. Like
it's a sham. Yeah.
Well, exactly, right. And so I'm not gonna pretend like, oh my god, like me, Slav is really passionate about getting out the vote. But yeah, I mean, it's funny, and obviously all bets are off as far as this precedent I'm talking about when you consider that. I mean, like this guy is. This guy's demented. This guy is like literally demented, and so no, exactly. And so you talk about like there's a precedent of incumbents not debating, but it's like, well, is there a precedent of mentally retarded incumbents not debating? Yeah. So there's that. But again, I mean, I don't know. This is. And I don't want to. I feel like this is kind of maybe like.
Yeah, we don't need to spend much time on that.
Well, this is almost like one thing that I hate about like the leftoid. This is kind of part of the reason why Biden is the guy right now, is because like leftoids just get to do the stupid thing where they like point to him and see like he has nothing to do with our movement at all, and like we hate him too.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, sure. Like, and it's all cynical.
Yeah, but you did vote for him and campaign for him and fucking go in line with everything so that he
and agree with him on the base assumptions that are, you know what I mean? Like, so come on, man. Like it's honestly one of those things where I would respect them more if they like actually were just straightforward about like, nah, like you're basically happy with most of the shit he's done.
Right. Yeah. At this point,
Anyways.
I'm pretty like. I've never really been engaged, I guess, with the electoral process, given the fact I've not voted. But I think I've paid more attention to it in the past than recently. And I like, it feels tiresome now to even like try to get on that ring of being like, oh my God, like Joe Biden's he's not gonna debate, and like, yeah, they're censoring his presidential candidates. It's like, of course they are. This whole thing's retarded. It's a scam. But like,
yeah, what the fuck do you think was gonna happen?
there's supposed to be a shell of some sort of proper face of a government happening, dude.
Yeah, they need to like lay there and fake it, you know?
Yeah, at least. What the fuck? Come on now.
Exactly.
So that's unsettling.
It's like yeah. It is a little unsettling, I guess, right? I mean, people don't even need to like pretend that the emperor is wearing clothes, and that's you know, that's I know. I feel like it kind of became cringe to talk about like decline narratives.
Yeah.
Which is funny because honestly, I've been thinking about what Sai said last week of just like
anti-based.
They're anti-based, and I'm just kind of like, honestly, like I kind of love that because everything.
Dude, yeah, if you're gonna be anti-lib, you gotta be anti-based. You have to have you gotta just be a person with normal, like not normal, but a person with opinions that you form consistently, not just like, I'm gonna jump over to this team now. You know what I mean? You gotta, if you're gonna be someone that actually is taking thought seriously in any type of way, you gotta be anti-lib and anti-base, because like,
well, the thing about this stuff too is that it's all just like fashion, right?
Yeah.
And so this stuff always ends up just coming around to like just being like, you know, actually we've 180'd on this because you didn't expect that. Like, remember when this is just getting into like, honestly, like Twitter drama shit, but like remember when the gays just kind of like colonized the group chat, and everybody was talking about how based that tranny in that like drag queen in Japan was, and it's just like, I'm sorry, dude, but like, I'm not such a fucking contrarian that I'm just gonna suddenly be like, yeah, dude, like this based drag queen that likes early 2000s movies is representative of my worldview and values. It's like, what is going on?
I think I missed that episode. I mean, I know the era you're talking about of the gay
like
takeover.
It's like the perfume nationalist shit.
Yeah, but I don't know this fucking drag person.
It was just retarded, dude. And I know that like some of the people we get along with are kind of, you know, like that crowd, and that's fine. You know, I'm not in fucking high school, but it's just one of those things that's just like, how you know, there's some give and take between me just being a person that has static values,
right,
and being a person that like wants to be a novelty and have interesting and novel opinions constantly. I'm constantly reinventing, and it's like, all right, dude, you know, it's good to have an open mind and to you know,
you gotta be dynamic. Yeah,
it's good to be dynamic. At the same time, though, like changing your opinions and stuff too much kind of just makes it feel like you just don't really have any sense of self at all.
I think it's important. It's good to have a strong set of core values that then guide your beliefs. And I think that because we're living in such a hall of mirrors, it's easy to put your beliefs in the wrong places at times, because maybe you haven't fully engaged with those areas, or you haven't fully seen it through or thought it out or seen it in the right light. You maybe have an idealized version of those, like whatever that belief system is you're picking up. And so I think that's normal and healthy to go through kind of eras or whatever, like, you know, you kind of kill your masters, whatever, that kind of thing, to a certain extent. Or kill your idols, I mean, whatever. But I think you need to have a core foundation of values. That
it's funny that you just said idols, because I was just about to say that like Twitter points, be it just like virtue or basedness, which I guess is just kind of like a funhouse mirror version of virtue. It's a type of virtue, right? It's just all like a golden calf, you know? And like, I remember specifically, like, dude, you get weird with this shit, man. And I remember times where I was in a bad place just in life generally, and then I just find myself over investing into. And look, man, I'm not gonna do the thing where I say that this is for everybody, right? This describes a problem that everyone will experience, but it certainly was for me. And it's just one of these things of like, dude, like losing time in the day over whether or not strangers on the internet, you know,
Mm-hmm.
approve of you is like, what are you doing, man? What are you
Yeah.
fucking doing? And then like it's like it's like teenage girls fucking themselves up because they're just seeing a bunch of Instagram models or something, except with like your personality, and you're like a fucking adult. You
Yeah,
know what I
normal
mean?
people making themselves like into mutilated fucking homunculuses by looking around and being like, "Well, I'm not base enough. I gotta think this instead. I gotta think." Yeah, dude, getting too invested in what people online think about you is fucked. But getting too invested and spending too much time, even caring about the niche bullshit that's going on, like even if it's a novel thing you've never seen before, like walnuts cause your nuts to shrink or whatever it is, like something like that. It's like you can't really go too far down those. You can't give too much energy to that, and that's your thing. Like I find I have a very overactive mind. I have like a mind that's running all the time, and through my whole life it's been like a kind of like a process of just learning to tame it, kind of weeding my own
Dude, it's a
mental
blessing and a
garden.
curse, man. The mind is
100%.
the mind is a great servant, but a terrible master.
Mm-hmm. And I've had to learn that over time, and I think that's like why I always had an interest in like meditation and in spiritual practices and stuff like that, because I think that's kind of the handbook for doing that. um,
Gotta tame that
and
shit.
and so I think that I had to learn, because I'm a person that's going to think a lot. I like to over intellectualize, romanticize stuff nonstop. I like to just kind of think things through, and so I've had to learn, like, I have to be careful how much thought I give to certain things, especially when I was online all the time, because it's like you're getting 1 million things thrown in front of your face on one endless stream of things, and they could be threads about, receipt paper, threads about fucking, I don't know, just endless shit like that. And all these things are important to know about. It's good that people are bringing them to light, etc. But at a certain point, like when you start looking into certain niche ideologies and niche belief systems, and you get such a broad spectrum of people you're hearing from, and people are just kind of spurging out, you got to be careful on how much energy you give that stuff and how far you're willing to follow those ideological things down. Because I find myself like I'm someone who wants to entertain all areas of thought, so I can kind of understand where those people are coming from. And then I'll just be like, oh yeah, I understand why you think that. And then you get just kind of like spread out a little too thin. So I had to kind of just step back, reassess what I believe firmly, what are the core values that have shaped my beliefs, even though maybe my beliefs have changed here and there. What are the things that led me to those in the first place, and have those remain static? And I think that's what you really have to find out. And I think that's what should inform your political compass, your moral compass, how you engage day to day with people, etc. More so than like what's the newest belief packet that you picked up.
I think that like being spread too thin is like a really, really, really big underlying issue for like kind of just the modern subject in general.
Excess positivity.
Yeah, well, right, and I think like I've talked about this before, but just like the discipline baked into modern democracy of just being like, educate yourself, sweaty. Like, it's not my job to educate you. You should do the work. Everybody needs to have this like this finely curated and like personally built and well considered opinion on every single little tiny a la carte issue. And it's part of just the absolute delusion of democracy in general. That like people would ever even do that at any point in history. But it's sad because, I mean, honestly, one of the big reasons I find it sad too is just that like it's like the political equivalent of those like body standards we're talking about, right? Everybody is just like, oh man, like if I was actually a moral and smart, considerate person, I would have opinions on all of these things, right? And like and it would be the correct opinions and all, and it's just like, dude, like, it's all a delusion. It's all a delusion in the first place. So I don't know, man. It's sad.
Yeah,
but,
it's easy to tie your brain into knots going down, endless rabbit holes like that. And you just gotta be able to tend your garden, take time for yourself, and just try to like be a normal person, like and I don't mean be normal as in like go outside, touch grass, whatever, but I mean normal as in like be a well-rounded human being. You know what I mean? Try to do that rather than being someone that you idolize or being a packet of beliefs that you want to aspire to. It's like just work on where you're at and just be where you're at for a little while and feel what that is. You know what I mean? And then try to go from there rather than just constantly just jumping down new things. But yeah, so I guess we'll get back to RFK. It was nice having him on because of course he's talking about vaccine stuff. If you listen to the podcast, you know that we have pretty strong opinions on the most recent vaccine debacle with the COVID vaccinations, be it the mRNA,
for it.
Right. And so it's nice to have him on talking about that because it's giving credence to, what a whole swath of people have been saying all along, him included, of course. Like he's not a late comer to this, which is also nice. And so he was really giving a quick overview of just some good facts. Like they're just kind of nice to have in the back pocket. And it's kind of just a nice way to engage with that in a way that's less speculative than what I feel like most people are usually doing when they're talking about vaccines. Like for me, it's like, it's mostly intuitive. I'm looking at what's going on. I'm understanding the profit incentive. I'm looking at the industries and how they're tied into the media and just the entire web that's kind of forcing this vaccine out. So I'm skeptical from that point of view. And then you provide me with studies and I'm like, okay, yeah, that lines up. That makes sense to me. But it's nice to actually have people that have that empirical data and knowledge to actually lay it out, because that can help people who are maybe on the fence about it change their mind. Whereas I'm already on their team. So I'm like, yeah, that's just good confirmation for me.
Yeah, man. I mean, and it's like he's got a lot of he's got a lot of data, and that's probably why he's just basically just having all of his appearances just taken down.
Yeah,
I think it was Jordan Peterson, his interview with Jordan Peterson, his interview with Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
which I didn't watch Jordan Peterson because I have a hard time with that, but
yeah.
His interview with Mike Tyson was funny because I didn't realize Mike Tyson has an impressive appreciation for like 20th century American history.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I get a kick out of. Well, he also has the old school black guy trait of just really liking the Kennedys.
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude.
Which I find endearing.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. It was that.
How was that episode? Did you watch a good
it was
bit
good.
of it?
It was a little slow. I mean, I go into these interviews and I just immediately want him to just start talking about fucking mRNA, and he takes his time a little bit. But
you gotta, dude. You gotta fucking, keep some of your powder dry. You gotta ease into it. Or else
and to be honest, that's actually how I felt a little bit about the normal vaccine stuff. Is because I'll be honest, I think that everybody kind of knows this already, but like. Listen, man, maybe, okay, I'll qualify this by saying at least up until recently, the whole like vaccines cause autism and that thing, that hasn't really been my bag. Like I didn't want to take the COVID vaccine. Yeah, I didn't want to take a vaccine that was designed very, very quickly to, combat a disease that people didn't understand very well. And I lost my job over it. Mm-hmm. And then I saw a number of people end up in the fucking ER from heart complications and things like that. And that's on its own, right? I mean, that's self-evident. That's right in front of my face. I don't need, the case for all the other vaccine stuff is a little bit more abstract. It didn't affect my life, right? It didn't materially affect my life in one of the clearest ways possible, right? And And so even with that stuff up until now, I've kind of been like, all right, like get through that. I don't even really care about that all that much. Just talk about the COVID vaccine, right?
Yeah.
Prosecute Fauci. I want to hear it all.
String them up.
Right. Lock them up, dude. And I don't know, man. I mean, I'm listening to him. And this is one thing I want to say about empiricism and rationalism is, okay, I'm not going to take the time to look at any of these studies he's citing.
Right.
And nobody is going to do that.
Mm-mm.
No one is going to do that. I'm sorry if you think that someone is going to do that. No one is going to do that. Americans are not scientifically literate. Americans aren't even literate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And to be honest, even if they were either of those things, people aren't going to do it for so many fucking reasons. One, they don't have the fucking time because everybody works a fucking shitload and has other more important fucking things to do. Two, there are so many wrinkles and nooks and crannies in this form of publishing that you can just through sophistry or lies of omission and things like that, you can have this stuff paint a picture that is very different from what it actually is.
Yeah.
Right. The idea, I'm sorry, and you got this a lot with kind of the Trumpian rhetorical, post-truth era stuff, where basically people were mourning the loss of like the pre-postmodern world.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just like, oh man, if we could just get back to a time when there was one de facto truth and one uniting meta narrative that everyone could agree on and all of that, as if those things aren't basically just defined by power.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a throwback to that. And I'm sorry, but all of that was cope, right? All of that was cope. And this idea that it's just like the solution to all these problems is to actually it's like the end of history idea of just kind of just looking at politics. Like you get this from like the like enlightened self-interest crowd of being like, well, politics is like a math equation, and like at the end of the day, like 1 + 1 does equal 2. And if we could just line things up properly and like fucking Elizabeth Warren, just like
balls to the wall in the legislature, go hard into paint in the bill writing.
Well, no, exactly. I'm a policy wonk that hates corruption, right? And it's like, you fucking idiot. You know what I mean? The idea, it's the dumb fucking thing of being like, it's like I grew up with my dad, who's like a normie con Reaganite, being like, one of the big problems is that politicians are lawyers, when really politicians should be scientists and doctors and things like that. No. And it's like, bro, you either think that politics, you have the virgin retard belief of like politics is like a science for scientists, or that it's like an art for like philosopher kings, right? And you can, it's your prerogative to pick either, right? But you at least need to understand that like the former is a very, very modern thing that doesn't reflect, the overwhelming majority of human history. And so this idea that there's a solution to politics, which kind of undergirds this whole idea of like, well, we just need to get the right facts, right?
Yeah, it's fucking technocratic bullshit. It's like, if we just had people that are doing the right thinking in there, and we had people with the right facts, and we had people with the right education, the right credentials,
Right. And look, and this is one of the annoying rhetorical parts about this, is that I understand that basically making the argument that like, well, like you basically just need to have somebody who shows a strength of character and like a heroic spirit that then makes it so that you can just use that to kind of caulk in the gaps of what you don't know, so that you can trust what they're saying. I like understand that is a deeply flawed and shitty answer, right? But it's like so many things with critiquing liberal democracy and just democracy in general. Just because the reality is is unsatisfying and flawed, like it then rhetorically gets framed as like, I need to defend that basic fucking reality that things aren't perfect, right? It's like with trans people or something like that, right? Where they go like, oh my god, it's so horrible that that you can't consent to the sex you're born in and all of these things. And it's like, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, you're kind of rhetorically framing it like, now I need to defend that just like nature and the fact that you were born at all isn't always fair. And like,
it's supposed to somehow answer to you. Yeah. And your idea of fairness. What the fuck are you talking about?
No, exactly. And it's like, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not fair. Like, I don't even really know how to even begin to defend this position because it isn't fair. You're right. But like, it just is, right?
Yeah, it's just not a discussion, dude. That's not that's not up for debate amongst us. We got nothing to do with it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And you know, so no, this enlightenment cope, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, and I encounter this all over the place, right? And so, you know, I have a buddy that I talk to who's big into this, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm just talking about my conversations with him, right? I mean, this is, like I said, like with my dad, this is stuff that I've heard constantly. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, this is kind of a last line of defense that normies that don't really have, how do I want to put this? Political scruples.
Yeah.
Basically fall back on, right? And there's a reason for that, because it's an empty fucking platitude. Okay, that it's like going into a fucking philosophy course and just being like, hey man, like, can we, the trolley problem? Come on, like, I'm talking about a trolley solution. Let's get some numbers in here.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, okay, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? Get the fuck out of here. And so, like, listen, like, and I don't necessarily want to act like there isn't some empirical truths. Well, some empirical certainties that RFK is speaking to, right? But at the end of the day, when this stuff intersects with the realm of the political, it becomes something different.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think one of the big things that this stuff comes down to is that you either understand this dialectic, one of the defining processes of our time, which is centralization versus decentralization. Okay. And I'm not a fucking anarchist. I'm not a fucking libertarian. I'm not a fucking liberal. Right. So I'm not either of those things. Right. Shots fired against anarchists. And like, I don't, as a natural state of my personality, I don't generally err on the side of decentralization, right? I'm pro centralized economic planning. I'm all of this stuff, right? In theory, right? But right now, what you're seeing, I mean, look at the internet, right? The internet used to be, I like grew up in forum culture, right? The idea of back in the day, back when I was in like fucking middle school, posting about, you know, magic cards and comic books on forums, the idea that all of this stuff would just be consolidated and mediated through apps, right, would be insane to me. Okay. Decentralization is kind of the only acceptable position with a lot of this stuff these days with our current conditions. Yeah. And listen, man, like, it's a lot like RFK's position that he gave on that Breaking Points interview he gave that people absolutely shit on Crystal Ball for, rightfully, where he was just like, you know, one of my you know, solutions for how we would handle this in the future is to have this kind of decentralized network across the globe of almost kind of like a VAERS reporting system for doctors to share information about treatment. Because like I was talking to Glenn the other day, right? And I'm talking to him about long COVID, right? And ivermectin specifically. And, you know, it's funny because, again, I don't know if I it's funny to think about this because this podcast is kind of just like an outlet to just get our thoughts out. And so I don't know what I have and haven't talked about a lot of the time, but my fiance was dealing with long COVID, right? She was losing hair, right? And it was a problem. And it was kind of scary, right? And I was just like, listen here, broad. You're going to take ivermectin. And we're going to see how that goes, right? Bro, guess what happened?
She get better?
Okay, yes. Like almost instantly. Like
nice.
A week. Like maybe less than a week.
Where'd you get the ivermectin?
We got it online from some foreign country.
Okay.
In pill form. Okay. I had taken ivermectin twice before as horse medicine. I had
horse
the green
paste.
Apple flavor. Yeah, I literally took the horse paste. And I'm talking, this was a months long struggle, right? Losing hair, months long struggle. And it was an issue. And after less than a fucking week, it completely cleared up.
Nice.
And I'm talking to Glenn, and he's talking about long COVID, unfortunately, like really is a real thing,
right.
and it's a bummer. But the saddest part about it is that
it's cut out.
Oh, did I cut out? Shit. Hold on.
Yeah, you cut out for just a second when you were saying that it's a real thing.
Oh shit. Yeah, hold on. Give me a second here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, cool. Is the recording still going? Sometimes
it's still going. I'm not sure what happened there.
Oh, it's all good. I'm like kind of doing something on my computer while I'm talking, so it might be that. But you can still hear me all right.
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay, cool. No, man. So like the ivermectin thing. Just this idea of like it's so easily treated. And and to me, that's like one of the best examples of this kind of like, we need this kind of decentralized information sharing stuff. And it all just kind of comes back to the point I was making about decentralization.
Yeah. It should be transparent to where regular people can look at it and see it like theirs is, instead of being just for doctors.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, so just as far as just this whole, gonna have a citizen army of fact checkers, to back all this stuff up and everything. Like all you're gonna have is just like a bunch of people that are just as divided on their opinions, but just being exponentially wordier and more annoying. And that's kind of my take.
I think that some fence sitters, if they were fence sitting and listened to Joe Rogan, which I'm not sure if that exists, but I think some people.
I think that there's probably a lot of that, to be honest. I think there's probably a lot of that.
Because I don't know that people are going to retain the empirical data, or that it matters really in a fundamental sense. But people do have that hair of, technocratic kind of longing where they're like, if people that are in the know and have the right credentials say the right numbers and figures in a sentence, and they sound like they know what they're talking about, that's going to give me a gut reaction. Like maybe if I can judge that they seem earnest in what they're saying, and then they're saying things that sound like they're empirical, then for a lot of people, I think that can trigger just a change as far as in their intuitive feel towards the situation, and change their gut reaction to where they're like, this guy just feels correct. And I think it's easier to kind of bring that out of people when you actually have some empirical stuff to say, like he's doing on this. I didn't need it, because I'm already, like I said, already on that team. But I think that like some people have that weird like dataism brain where they're like, well, numbers and figures and really everything are going to, if we just dissect everything down to their smallest components and we can figure them out that way, then that'll be the way that we can really look at health and just look at everything. And so those people are going to want to hear that kind of stuff just as like dressing on top of the actual content of what's being said. and a broad perspective. So I think that it was good for him to go on there, say that stuff. I think that it changed some people's minds. We had someone in the Discord that said they were out at a bar and got to talking with somebody, and he was.
Oh, have you been checking in on the Discord lately?
Mm-hmm, yeah, I've been checking there
yeah.
every day or two.
Hell yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And so one of the guys though was saying in there that they were talking to a guy at the bar a couple of days after the Rogan episode, and he was like, yeah, man, recently I've kind of been thinking about this vaccine stuff, and I listened to a podcast recently with the guy that had this information, and he was being like apparently kind of cryptic about it, and they were like, let's just be honest, was it Joe Rogan? And he was like, yeah, man, it was RFK on Joe Rogan, and apparently this guy had his mind changed because of it, because like it's a Kennedy. He's saying stuff that sounds like facts and figures, you know, and if you're a regular person, you don't have the key card to science realm. You're going to hear those and just think that they're saying something that makes sense, you know, like it just adds a certain level of credibility for some people. And I think that the combination of that plus being on a podcast like Joe Rogan, where you have a long form, like you're actually able to say the things you really want to say. Oh, yeah. I think that makes people think he's genuine, and it can change people's gut. And I think that it happened for some people. I think that's really good. I mean, Joe Rogan has a fucking crazy, huge audience and network.
The biggest platform in the West.
It's nuts, man. They were talking about that too in the episode where he's like, RFK was kind of like gassing him up a little bit. He was like, yeah, like people are going to look back into history books and be like, yeah, Joe Rogan's podcast was like the main source of information during the 2020 eras, like basically was what he was saying.
Which is wild.
Which is nuts. It's fucking nuts. This Fear Factor guy, dude. Fucking Fear Factor cage fighter guy. What are we talking about? It's nuts. But I mean, I almost feel like it's a better turn of events than having some sick fucks with the key cards and lab coats telling you numbers and figures nonstop. Because like I said, if you don't have that membership and the credentials into that world, it just glazes over. You don't know what they're talking about. And that's what makes me uncomfortable with this whole concept you were talking about, like with what your dad would say about like, we just need to get doctors in there running things, or we just need to get, you know, scientists in there. It's like, no, we don't, because those are like dark artists. Those are like druids, dude. Like, you know,
dude, this is like it's like the thing. Oh man, I hope you checked it out. Since that it's the thing I was telling you about of that couple that was on Alex Kashuda's show.
Oh fuck! And, no, dude, I completely spaced it. I'm writing it down right now.
Oh my god, dude. Okay, so funny enough, there was like a comment. I'm literally just gonna reference some YouTube comment intellectual. But he had this point just about being like, this is basically a perfect example of how, like, you know, scientists are useful, but they like need to be dominated by you know, an actual leader, because they'll either be like the engineers of innovation in our future, or like the engineers of our destruction, and it's like a 50-50 chance.
And you don't know what's going on too, because they're almost like the magicians of the current era. They're like the priest of the cult of science. So like they're dealing with an unknown substance that's mystified in a way that like most individuals just don't have the ability or the access to really refute it. And so it's like, it creates a weird level of like, well, I say so, and I know, and y'all don't know, but don't worry, because I know. And I don't ever trust anything like that. And then, yeah, man, and if it's not something like that, you can end up with a fucking retard like Ben Carson. Like, that dude doesn't know shit.
Remember that? Remember how that was like he was breaking the glass ceiling of having the first sleepwalking presidential candidate.
The first presidential candidate with narcolepsy.
Dude, that guy was so fucking funny. Remember I think we talked about this on the Fed post, but like he like came up with that whole story about how he tried to fucking like stab a guy and it like hit the guy's belt buckle.
Oh my god, yeah, bro. yeah. Dude.
That was a hoot and a half, dude.
And so that's showing you the flip side, where it's like you also just get retards that go up through these, they gather these credentials because the credentials don't really mean anything. right? They're just like,
well, no, I mean, it means, you know what it means? You know what it means? It means like he was good at doing the kind of surgery he did.
right. Yeah.
Like, I don't doubt that. And like, yeah, that shows a certain level of intelligence, right? I'm not going to act like some fucking any retard off the street can be a whatever surgeon.
Oh, of course not.
Right?
But like,
But,
he's
that,
specialized, you know? Specialization's important.
No, no, but that's exactly it. He was specialized, right? That doesn't mean that he's like, I mean, this is why like people that obsess over IQ are cringe, right? It's because like there just isn't a universal metric. Now, like IQ is a very good one, and it can predict a lot of things.
Determining success within this rationalistic culture that we're in, it is important because it determines how you'll mesh with that.
Exactly, right? But yeah, man. I mean, just this, and the thing I want to mention too to this point also is like when my old man would be saying shit like that, I'm like, well, we just need to get these lawyers out and get these scientists and doctors in. It's like, dude, like that's also just like a moral statement, right? It's like it's a moral statement about lawyers being bad and doctors being good, which like I get it about lawyers. I would push back on that about doctors, to
definitely
be fair.
Big time, bro.
And scientists certainly, but yeah, man. I mean, but that's not even the point, right? I mean, like boomer, like it's kind of like a my friggin' wife tier boomer joke about just being like, oh, these fucking attorneys, which is funny because it has everything to do with the wife thing, because those attorneys are the medium through which their ex-wives fucked them.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not even making the point specific to these occupations. It's just, it literally is just saying like, like, these are these professions that we've all decided are like the good ones, right? People do this about teachers, right? Well, they're just the good people in our society. Why can't society? It's the utopia meme, and it's just like society if everyone was just a teacher. Society if everyone was just a plus size transgender black elementary school teacher.
Well, it's part of this whole entire package of cosmology that we're working with in the West, which is like this materialistic scientism kind of thing, where you're like, people that are doing science are truth seekers who are undertaking this noble act, and so they should have an elevated place in society, and so are doctors, because it's the same kind of thing, because what they're doing is essentially science basically, but on a human level. And then teachers are the people that grease the wheels of the brain to keep it going, and they're the ones that can add in the little catalyst to get you to where you can be a doctor or fucking whatever. And so they get these tiers within society in that way, and they're thought, and I don't mean that like they have an elevated position in society. Like, I don't think teachers on like day-to-day basis enjoy a whole lot of like status really in that sense, like doctors or scientists may. But they're looked at in a moral way because of that, because like they're like seen as like the clergy essentially of this new religion of science. It's like these people are partaking in it, and so that's kind of part of it. I really am uncomfortable with the whole technocratism, whatever the fuck it's called. I'm uncomfortable. Technocracy, God, yeah.
Technocratism.
Yeah, obviously I'm uncomfortable with that. Yeah, fuck.
Well, don't get you started on eschatology,
dude. I mean, technocratic eschatology, dude. That's what we're talking
I'm sorry.
about.
I'm never gonna let you live down the eschaton thing.
Whatever, dude. I'm not Catholic. I don't know those numbers and words.
It's gonna be in my fucking wedding vows, where I'm just gonna be like, and by the way,
eschatology doesn't mean what you thought it did, COH. And back to it.
Fucking idiot.
But yeah, I'm uncomfortable with that, because as a man with a tenuous grasp on even vocabulary, I don't want people who have this ability to hold things over my head like that, running things. I think it's a misconception, and it's a misalignment of like understanding power, but also understanding how society works, right? I think that everything needs to be in its right place to a certain degree. Like, you need doctors, you need scientists, and you need politicians. Like, You don't need your scientist to be your politician. You don't need your doctor to be your politician. You need people who are in a leadership role, like you said, that are open-minded, people that are willing to listen to doctors, listen to their physicians, listen to their scientists, their priests, whatever, these specialists in different realms, but they don't need to embody any single thing of that. The ideal politician is someone who's more well-rounded and open to all those things, and like you said, imbues a strong sense of character and has his shit together and is able to synthesize those different things as much as he can through being a figurehead that kind of those other things are like nested hierarchies underneath him in a way. And like that's how society should operate. There shouldn't be a priest that's the government. There shouldn't be a scientist that's the government. There should be a government that has priests and has scientists and has advisors or as councils or as
there shouldn't be a government that has priests technically, but
right.
Well, I mean, if you want to try, if people want to try that political form, that's fine.
I mean,
but
like as a council, like
no, exactly. I don't really want like a state religion, but I get what you're saying. Oh my gosh, it just cut out again, didn't it? God damn it! Can you hear me again?
Yeah, but you're saying, yeah, I hear you now. You're saying you don't want a state religion.
Beautiful, and you can still hear me. Yeah, and that's all. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's a proper way to live because I don't think that compulsion is what God wants. I don't think that he wants compulsive behavior. Like I don't think that he wants anyone to be obligated to be a certain religion. Right? He wants to come to you within your own heart and have you make an independent decision, and he wants to move within your life in that way on an individual level. He doesn't want the government to say, "Hey, you have to be this," because that's
exactly.
not true.
Recently, I was speaking to I think my brother, and he was talking about like central like this idea of being created in God's image, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like God isn't a person. Right, God doesn't have like God doesn't have a human body and like a bungalow in Miami that he hangs out with his girlfriend, right? Like God, being created in God's image is to have consciousness and intelligence,
creative power,
and free will,
right?
Mm-hmm. And that's a really important one. But anyways.
Well, one thing that was cool about the RFK discussion, right, was that he goes into talking about the problems with science and the problems with, I think he even calls it like a religion in the Joe Rogan episode, which is pretty based. Because I mean, fundamentally that's what it is. And I know that like we've talked about like what pride or whatever is religion and the gay stuff is a religion and all this and liberalism is, and it all is
gay,
right.
That gay stuff do be a religion,
right? It's all belief packets and systems people are buying into, but I think that they're all subordinate to a larger religion, which is of like scientism essentially, which is like I think the core base of that is that like human beings can become masters of the mechanical universe in a way or one way or another, and I think that like he speaks to that in a way, not in explicit terms like that, but he pokes at the problems with that kind of ideology. And then when he talks about like agency capture, like stuff like that, it's just an inherent part of bureaucracy within that kind of framework. And that kind of religious attitude towards science makes it easier to accept that kind of behavior. And so I think personally that was RFK, dude. I mean, he speaks to shit that I like. He's a fucking lib, you know what I mean? Like he's like him and Joe Rogan are both like classical liberals. Like he's a liberal. That's what he is in his heart. He's trying to get back to like Kennedy America, which makes sense. It's like his parents were running shit then. Shit was all right, to a degree. JFK was like pretty based on wanting to take down the CIA, central banks, etc. All that is cool, but at the end of the day, it's like it's still a certain return kind of idea, and like if we can get a more perfect form of liberalism, then we can really actually be good, which I think is a flawed just concept in general. But I think it's the best thing that we've got as far as like if you're going to engage with the political system that we have and the electoral system we have right now, which all it can ever offer is some sort of form of bourgeois liberalism, then I think this is the best option for that. Because he's talking about trying to build a coalition that goes between the left and the right, which obviously is something that I think is important. And he's talking about populism. He's talking about agency capture. He's talking about how sick all these big agencies, either the medical industry or the military industrial complex or even our governmental agencies, etc. He's talking about all this in a way that I like to hear. He's making the right critiques. But at the end of the day, it is a liberal critique. So it's like, I'm excited to hear these things. I think it's good. I think that I would vote for him based on what I've heard so far, what my feeling of him is, because like at a certain point, I would also like a little bit of accountability. You know, I would like a step in towards that direction. I would like for people's lives to stop being so completely fucked. I would like a lessening of the boot on our necks. I would like, you know what I mean? I would like a lot of these things that he talks about to happen because I think it would improve the quality of life of everyday individuals right now. But it is like, it just kind of points to where we're at now because it's like, yeah, he's fundamentally talking about like, he calls it like a revolution and stuff too. He's like, yeah, there's revolutions like, and you know, that's going to happen here if we don't just, you know, do a broad coalition and get us back to the, you know, 60s era liberalism. And it's like, dude, that's only going to last so long anyways too before it fucking devolves into where we're at now again. So that's my bone to pick with him on that front. It's very like it's like American exceptionalism kind of idea in a way where he's like, we just need to go back to like, we need to do the Belt and Road Initiative. I mean, I think it's right. I think all of what he's saying is right within the liberal framework and within like the framework that we have. But yeah, it's not like revolutionary, which I mean, I don't expect him to be. He's a Kennedy. I don't know. That's like a big web of thoughts I just threw out there, but.
No, it's good shit, man. I think, I mean, again, it's like the same thing I said about Trump. People were like, he's corrupt. He is a war criminal. And it's like, yeah, I mean, he's a president.
Yeah, he's all these other people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, if you're going to be running for you know, for president of the United States, you're just going to be a liberal.
Definitely.
That's just like how it works. Now, you know, but Slav, you're always giving a hard time to people like Jordan Peterson for being liberals. And yes, I am. And the reason for that is that like Jordan Peterson is like a commentator who's basically defining like the political horizons of like the right, and basically kind of like defining like what the acceptable outer limits are. And his whole thing kind of posing as like, though I'm sure he would disagree with this characterization, kind of posing as some kind of a radical is just we need just a return to like 90s liberalism. And like, yeah, that's bad. That's bad. Now, if you're a fucking presidential candidate who's coming in with like a fairly focused platform. Am I good again?
You're good now. Yeah. You're good now.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what the fuck's going on here. But you can't hear me.
We can keep going though. You're back. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Sorry. This is just a mess today.
Oh, you're fine.
No, but you know, it's literally just a different standard you're being held to.
Definitely.
I mean, think about even like Bernie Sanders, right? I mean, like he identified it as a democratic socialist, just as a way to like sexy up and like appeal to you know,
DSA fucking young people.
Well, yeah, to like authentic leftists, as a way of basically just rebranding being a social democrat.
Yeah.
Right. And that's fine. Like being a social democrat isn't fine. You know, like ultimately, but again, it's like, dude, whatever, right? Like that's
you're a presidential candidate. Yeah.
Exactly.
You're right? In that realm. You're in that arena. So you're going to be playing with one of those playbooks that's for that game, you know?
Exactly. So when RFK is fucking talking about, you know, we're gonna have a peaceful resolution or revolution and all that. It's like, okay, you know, okay,
But at
whatever.
least like it seems like the dude's genuine and he means well, and like that's like an idealistic vision that I would prefer, like someone with a little bit of idealism than to like some of what we're working with now. That's just like nihilistic nonsense.
Oh yeah,
Um,
you bet.
so that's refreshing, and like I said, I would be for all what he's talking about. Like if he could somehow try to like cut down these industries and stop agency capture to some degree and stop the influence of like the pharma industry on like American health in general, and also like kind of untie some of those knots, that would be a huge step in the right direction to just improving the lives of everyone around us and making us healthier, making the country a little bit better. Um,
Yep.
and it's like one of those things where it's like, do you want to just pour like fire, like fuel on the fire and be like, fuck it, let's just get more Biden in here, you know, or whatever, and like just keep letting this thing run off the tracks because we need to, and you know, any kind of cost of human life or health or planetary life or whatever is just kind of, you know, collateral damage until we get to a glorious revolution. That kind of accelerationism, you could think that if you want, but like, and I think maybe you're right at the end of the day, but like my my composition, my constitution, who I am in my heart, it doesn't allow me to think that. Like, because I want my life to be better, I want the life of the people around me to be better, and I would like to see the improvement right now. And so, like, I think there's a way to, from a revolutionary or counter-revolutionary, whatever kind of ideology you buy into, to support someone like RFK within the framework of a broader, you know, program that you want to see done over a course of time. It's like, yeah, but this is a way to actually kind of like start to unravel some of these things in the dialectic that we're talking about in the first place, and start to bridge that gap and maybe create a cross the divide between the left and the right to some extent and try to build that coalition. And I think that it would be good to have that. It's funny you brought up Bernie, because like listening to this interview a lot, I was like, he's just fucking like a slightly more based Bernie. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he's a Bernie with a little bit more nuts to put on the table. And
Well, and to be fair, he is like, he's much more moderate than Bernie.
yeah,
You know, he's
from like
not
a
pushing for
for
Medicare for
actual like
all.
economic perspective.
Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he's not pushing for, like, you know, he's not pushing anything remotely like, you know, Medicare for all
Right. And
or
that's one
anything
thing
like that.
too that I was listening to. I was like, the one thing I was worried about with the whole COVID thing, right, is like COVID changed my view on a lot of things, or not really changed it, but just like it was a new thing. It's like, this is a new thing to be worried about. This like abuse of power and this kind of stuff. And so it made it, like I said for a while, like I'm a single issue voter, even though I don't vote or whatever, but about COVID being that kind of thing and how you reacted to it, etc. And this is making me wonder, like, I mean, I don't know, that's not a conspiracy brain thing, but like just saying like the COVID thing, and now like we're just like, oh, RFK's based because he wants to talk about just like we shouldn't let this happen again and that kind of stuff, rather than like actually talking about material economic demands, anything like that. It's like, oh well, he's right with like his general concept of what he wants to be done as far as abuse of power, and he's speaking to those things and stuff like that, so that's cool. But at the end of the day, it's like, what does he want to do for workers? What does he want to do to actually change the fucking bedrock that's underneath all of this superstructure he's talking about? And that's what's frustrating for me. And it's like, I'm catching myself enthusiastically being like, oh, I like this guy, just because I'm hearing that he's talking to the stuff that are like trigger points for me, like the COVID thing or the cell phone radiation and shit like that, where I'm like, his heart and his brain, I think, is in the right place. But like, am I going back now to being like, I'm going to support this guy because I think that he's got an ideal vision more so than actually like, what is his plan that he wants to do?
I mean, I'll say something. All right. Here's my take. Right. he's not running on any kind of remotely Marxist platform.
Right, of course.
His campaign is explicitly about like protecting the American middle class.
Yeah, of course.
So it's almost antithetical.
Right.
The thing also is, and this is going to be, I'm not saying this as like it always has to be this way, but just as far as like the way things are currently, the stuff he's talking about with like health related stuff and those are middle class issues.
Yeah,
right. None of that stuff has anything really to do with class struggle.
Right.
It can, right, but that's not what it is. Right. I mean, he is running on like the suburban vote, basically. He's running on support from, you know, the fucking middle class.
Right.
Straight up, dude. And that is what it is, you know.
But that's also like what American electoral politics is, like we discussed before when we said, yeah, he's playing in this arena.
Well, exactly, right. And so like it's kind of just one of these things of like it's just the entry fee to get into the game.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. And again, I get that that's also not a very satisfying answer because, you know, like you could justify anything like that. Right. But, you know, it is what it is. For me, the big thing is he's basically the first COVID candidate.
Right. Definitely.
And
I want to support that from like an ideological standpoint, and because it's something that I fought about for a couple years now, and I have a chip on my shoulder about. So it's like, you know, I identify with that more.
It's absolutely vital. And like, I still remember like just how fucking upsetting it was to see like the midterms come and go and not a single person really ran on. I mean, I don't know. I guess people would say little platitudes here and there, but I mean, like,
no one ran on what no one ran.
Exactly. Like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. You know what I mean? It's like we all had crimes against humanity committed against us, right? I mean, the biggest con job in human fucking history, the amount of things done, right?
Oh, it's nuts.
And the idea that I'm just asking for one fucking candidate to run on that shit it's crazy making. It's fucking crazy making. So, you know, that is what it is. He's running on that. And that's a different thing than, you know, than running on class struggle.
Right.
So, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, again, I'll make that, I'll qualify it in that way again, but yeah.
Well, I think it's like one of the things that he's talking about benefit everyday people is kind of what I look at it from. And I think fundamentally it will. Like, I think he's not running on a working class platform, but he's working on a platform that would fundamentally better the lives of working class individuals, because it would help to clean up the environment they're in. It would help to clean up their internal environment by the medications and stuff, or at least kind of help to address that or bring attention to it at the very least. Like, he might not be able to do anything about it. I think he would do some things. I think, like he said, he would sign an executive order about not advertising on TV and blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that would ever stand or what would happen, but like, I think that is a pretty big thing. That's major. That's major to do, especially just as like a executive order. But he said he'd do that on his first day. So like, hearing stuff like that, you're like, this is, from a general perspective, he sounds like he's got his head on straight about like the superstructure. And so you're like, I think that would just fundamentally help people, right? Right. But I don't know. It's just like, it's just frustrating because it's like, yeah, we have taken a big step backwards from ever talking about anything like that's at like a political level. And I don't mean at a presidential level, but like, just, yeah, it's cooled down on talking about class politics at all, anywhere. And
well, the sad thing, honestly, is, and it's sad to say this, is the whole class reductionist line now of being like, well, like, this stuff is just a diversion and like we really need to focus on class, has actually kind of been absorbed and become like a normie talking point
Yeah.
that is used to
Defend terrible, horrible shit like the authoritarian measures taken during COVID.
Exactly. And like in any number of things. And like it's kind of just something libs say now.
Mm-hmm.
And it bothers me. And I mean, everybody just saw the Bernie Mittens meme, and then all of that stuff just got absorbed into the fucking meat grinder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bummer, man. I don't really know what else to say, but I will say, I mean, I'm kind of reading between the lines of what you're saying, and I think I can pretty confidently say we are a pro RFK podcast at this point. I mean,
I can't guarantee that I'm going to go through the rigmarole of registering to vote and everything, but if I do, then I'll vote for him.
I mean, I'll probably primary for the guy, and I'll probably vote for him. I'll probably just do the whole thing.
I'd like to see him have a debate or something. I don't think that'll happen. But also, I mean, here's something. Do we think he could ever be president, dude? I mean, he sounds crazy. He sounds crazy. And
or are we not talking about the voice?
No, I'm talking about the voice. The stuff he's saying is good. I don't think it sounds crazy at all. And I might be a little crazy, so maybe that's why. But he, like, from a just hearing his voice perspective, he doesn't sound presidential. He doesn't sound like he has a good grasp on his speaking abilities because he's got the issues with his throat and his larynx or whatever it is. And so it's like, how viable is he as a presidential candidate at the end of the day, outside of the content of what he's saying, but just because of like how he talks? And I don't know. I think that actually is a pretty big deterrent for people. Maybe not. Maybe we've changed because we've got a fucking bumbling retard up there now. So, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. People accept Joe Biden, and he does worse than talk grovelly. You know, he just says shit that doesn't make any sense. So I guess it doesn't really matter. But you know what I mean? He just, like, him in a debate against a smooth talking person, you're like, which one of these guys do you want to represent as the figurehead of America? In my heart, I want RFK because, you know, he aligns with the things that I believe and think and whatever. But from a perspective of like who puts off a strong presidential force, I think his voice is kind of a tick against him.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. It's not great. I mean, what is there to say about it, right?
I mean, I'm not trying to rag on the guy or anything. I'm just saying, like, that's a concern.
No, it's true. I mean, it's one of these things like might does make right, in a way. And like, I mean, just the concept of the executive branch in general is kind of like the PR branch of the United States. You know, I'll say, you're not wrong, but dude, after this many years of Biden
and Trump too, dude, because we've talked about how he's like an inappropriate character. I mean, he still exudes a certain level of like, I'm a businessman and I'm like, you know, I'm hyper masculine in a certain way and whatnot. So where it's like,
sure,
he puts off a little bit more of like a presidential air, even though he's not an appropriate person. But yeah, him and Biden combined, it's like that kind of maybe changed the perspective of what you need to be a president as far as how you present yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think of Trump as like intentionally iconoclastic.
Yeah.
He was taking a piss on that stuff. I think that Biden kind of has a similar effect, but unintentionally. And the fact that they can, excuse me. The fact that they can get away with it and that they have, and then it just doesn't fucking matter is, it makes me question all this stuff. Right. So, you know, I don't know how really important that stuff really is, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I hope it's less important.
I think that the voice. Okay. All right. So here's one thing, right? So everybody talks about like, people have been talking about how great Kennedy is doing in polls against Biden. and he's in double digits. He's on the better part of 20 and shit like that. And I'll be honest. I think a lot of that is literally just that he has the name Kennedy,
Right.
and people are just answering on that. I don't really know how serious we can take these polls.
But I think that would still happen with voting too. I think people would vote for him still just based on Kennedy as well.
That's okay. That's true, but there's one difference, right? There's a big difference, which is, they're going to see. Well, I mean, I don't know if the media keeps up what they're doing, maybe they won't see a lot of him before they vote. But you would assume they're going to see a lot more of him by the time they're getting to election day than they did, when they were just filling out a fucking exactly right. And so, I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I think that on his interview with like Mike Tyson, he was talking about like they recorded early in the day, probably because like Mike Tyson is like retarded from head injuries, and so he's like sundowning by the time that. But so they record it like fucking super early, and he talks about like he's better when he warms up, and so we'll see how that works for him.
Yeah, he's an interesting candidate. I think that overall it's a good sign. As far as with the things that we talk about is in relation to vaccines, in relation to the medical industry and all these big corporate industries, I think it's a good sign to have him as a candidate coming out talking like he is. And also he is following the tradition of like what Trump was saying with like building the coalition that's, I guess it wasn't Trump necessarily, but like he did that in the same way that Bernie also was saying of building a coalition that's the left and the right together. And it's not like we're going to do a cross-aisle bipartisanship, blah, blah, bullshit like what's her name? Elizabeth Warren would say. But like actually like, hey, we need to like try to bring the right and the left together in a populist movement. He talks
about it when he's talking about his father.
Right. And I think that is really good because I think we're going to go, it's undeniable now that populism is what is like fundamentally needed within the system that we have. We need to bridge the gap between the left and the right. We need to build a broader coalition between them one way or another. Third positionist, whatever it's going to be, we need to do that. And so I think that this is like pointing to that. And I think that's good overall. And then, yeah, man, like I said, him talking about the fucking cell phone radiation, Wi-Fi radiation, I really like that. That got my rocks off. Because he's, he's acknowledging a whole field of vibrational energy, essentially, and electromagnetic pollution and stuff that no one else even gives the time of day. And that's what he's doing with a lot of this stuff, with like the mercury and the vaccines and this and the COVID stuff. With most of these things, is he's just shedding light on shit that people just don't give a second thought to most of the time, either because it's censored out of the media or because people just take it for granted that these things are fine. Like, if someone's going to give you a cell phone, you're going to be like, well, this is probably safe. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to be like, everyone has this. They're selling it to me.
The children, they've got to be safe.
Right. People have probably tested this. They probably know that whatever comes out of this is okay for people, but they fucking don't. And they don't know that kind of shit. And like, so have someone even just to speak to that, I think is really cool to me personally, because that's an area that I'm interested in. And then he talks about like the frogs turning gay. He's talking about a bunch of shit. You're like, this is cool. Like,
right, the endocrine disruptors.
Right. It's good. It's good he's talking about this. It's stuff that gets me going. I like it. So at the end of the day, I'm supporting the guy, at least right now, at like a superficial level. And yeah, I'm sharing. I've been telling people like, hey, go listen to it. Go listen to him on whatever, Theo Vaughn or Joe Rogan, because like, he's just good. Like it sounds good. The shit he's talking about, I think it's important to hear about. And then maybe you can look into it on your own, do whatever you want to do, but maybe it'll just kind of make you think about some different stuff. And I think that's important.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm with it 100%. I kind of like that this episode was basically just RFK themes.
Mm-hmm. Shit, man, we can just have this we can just call it here if we want to. Cause we got an hour and a half. We can just make it like a RFK overview real quick, make it consistent with what's in there. We could drop it for just Patreons or drop it for public and do
Let's do
Patreon.
let's do this for everybody. Let's do this for everybody, and let's do Patreon in a day or two here.
Okay, cool. I'm free tomorrow through the day, and then Sunday in the afternoon and evening.
Yeah, let's we'll figure it out.
Cool. Because I think that some of the topics I have for discussion for the next episode relate back to this and refer to it a little bit, so we can make that for Patreon, and we can refer back to this a little bit, talk about the materialism thing, and then I had a couple other things that I just wanted to spring on you maybe before we not really overview them or do an outline about them, but just kind of bring them up and see what spins from there.
Sounds good, man. I'm open to it.
Sweet, dude. All right, man. Well, have a good rest of your day. Enjoy whatever you're doing this evening, and have a good weekend.
Sounds good, buddy. Yeah, dude, fucking D&D tonight. I'm stoked.
Oh, fuck yeah, man. That's sweet.
Hell yeah, dude.
All right.
Here, I'm gonna fucking go for a walk before I get started on work again. But good talk, buddy.
Yeah, enjoy it, man. See ya.
All right, see ya.